Game Week 8 is here and it's time to lock in those FPL teams. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan and it's time for me to select my Game Week 8 team after a pretty positive Game Week 7. Let's get going. So as I say, Game Week 7 was pretty positive for me. Another healthy green arrow here, all the way up to 1.5 million. So almost a 1 million rank increase, which really does show how tight the ranks are at the moment still. And you can really make some big moves from just like individual game weeks, so which is really, really nice to see. And it's also very positive that my non-wildcard team, obviously I haven't wildcarded yet, seems to be still not just competing, but actually beating a lot of the teams that have wildcarded recently. So that's good stuff. We are doing well at the moment and hopefully that will continue. One small issue with my team that I was quite disappointed about in Game Week 7 was the random benching of Robertson. I feel like I've been robbed of a clean sheet there. I should have an additional 5 points there minimum, but that is just one of those things. Occasionally a player will be benched out of the blue and that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be benched moving forward. But a positive transfer, bringing in Brennan Johnson last week for Eberechi Eze. I'm sure a lot of people are looking at Johnson now, so I feel like I'm ahead of the curve a little bit there. And we're going to see in Game Week 8 which of my players have good matchups and which ones are maybe a little bit more of a cause for concern. But overall, I'm very happy with the direction that my team is going, and I feel very positive, having not used any chips yet, that we can really still continue to make ground. Next target is top 1 million. Can that be done in Game Week 8? Well, let's find out. And guys, if you haven't done already, please do remember to like the video. It really does help out the channel so much. And do subscribe if you're new around here and you want to follow along with my moves each and every game week. Let's keep going. So I have just one free transfer for Game Week 8, but I do have 1.1 million in the bank. So there is some options to make some pretty big moves this week. So let's go through my team, what I have right now. And we've got Henderson in goal. And having got that Liverpool fixture out of the way, things are looking more positive for Henderson moving forward. We've got some good fixtures coming up. Forest away is a nice fixture for a defensive asset, as is Wolves and Fulham in Game Week 10 and 11. So actually, for a cheap goalkeeper, a 4.5 million goalkeeper, I don't mind this too much. And actually, I do think there are some positives to be taken from Crystal Palace in their kind of trying to gel a little bit more, and the defense is gelling a little bit more. And hopefully, as we go through the game weeks, there will be more opportunities for clean sheets for Crystal Palace. So I know he's not the perfect goalkeeper to have right now necessarily, but I don't mind him. For a cheap goalkeeper, I think he does the job just right. Moving into defense, we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, who has this tough fixture against Chelsea, followed by Arsenal. But here's the thing about Trent. He's just doing so well at the moment, and he is just continually looking like a threat, be that creatively, or we've also seen on international duty scoring that free kick. This is a guy who has the capability to get goals and get assists, even in the tougher fixtures. And Liverpool have been the best defence in the Premier League. Their underlying numbers are suggesting they're way out ahead of the pack, and maybe that's partially due to their easier fixtures. But I think in general, it does look like they just look like a better defensive unit this season compared to last season, which is really good when we're getting a Trent who's capable of attacking returns and also clean sheets at the same time. I think moving forward, the clean sheets will continue because no other team is doing clean sheets like Liverpool. Can they do it against Chelsea and Arsenal? There's less of a chance going into these fixtures compared to some of the other fixtures, but I still think it's definitely a possibility at Anfield. We have got the double up with Robertson here as well, and I expect him to come straight back into the starting lineup for Liverpool in these next couple of game weeks. So I'm not concerned about rotation at the moment. Then again, I did say that before. But again, Robertson is another player who does have a little bit of creative threat as well there compared to the overall pool of defenders. And in general, there's not too many defenders that are putting up great attacking numbers. Some players like Gabriel has that corner threat. Ait-Nouri is very attacking. But outside of that, we are looking at players like Trent and Robertson to get those attacking returns. So am I concerned about the clean sheets? A little bit. They are possible, but I wouldn't say they're super likely. But when you add in that attacking threat as well that these guys have, I do think there's still, there's still positivity that can be taken, particularly when we compare these guys to many of the other defenders, because we have to look at this in context. Who would I go for instead? An Arsenal defender who has tough fixtures coming up as well? Do I go for another Man City defender? Possibly. Nori is obviously on all of our minds, but he plays City this week. So I'm not really sure there's any way for me to make transfers for my Liverpool defenders this week. I think we just have a go, see what happens in this Chelsea game, and hope for the best, I suppose. Gvardiol is my final defender in my starting 11, and I really like the look of these fixtures for Man City. Man City have obviously put up some good defensive numbers so far this season, have dropped a little bit since the injury of Rodri, but we haven't got too much of a sample size there to really judge how much that is going to impact City. Obviously, City started the season without Rodri, and they were defending just fine there. I hope Gvardiol can continue to play in these very, very favourable fixtures, because we know this is another guy who has that little bit of attacking threat. So I've got a pretty expensive defence at the moment. I don't think that is going to stay that way for a long time, but right now I'm looking around at the other options for defenders. I'm not really sure where I can go that would really improve my team there, so we're going to leave it as it is for now. In midfield, maybe some different questions, because Saka is potentially injured. We don't know this for sure, of course, and we're going to obviously give you the full update on all injury news in tomorrow's video, the final decisions video. Right now, I'm thinking if Saka is available, and I think there's a good chance he will be. We know with Saka is he always seems to bounce back, return like a phoenix after every supposed injury. He seems kind of immune to injuries in many ways. He just plays every game, doesn't he? And Bournemouth, look, it's not the perfect fixture, but Saka is in great form at the moment. Creative, taking shots, hasn't even had a penalty yet, which is also going to boost his points potential if Arsenal were to get a penalty. And those set pieces are always very handy when you've got a player like Gabriel on the ends of them. So yeah, there is definitely huge potential here for Saka if he's available, despite a kind of tricky fixture. I'm actually more worried about the fixtures after this one, and at that point I might need to make a move on Saka, assuming he is available right now. Anyway, Mbeumo is my next player. Been very pleased with him so far. Don't love this Manchester United away fixture, because even though United have been poor, they have been keeping clean sheets recently. 3 clean sheets in the last 4 for Manchester United. But Brentford seem to be goal-scoring machines, particularly in the early stages of games. And if I don't see an Mbeumo goal within the first 2 minutes of the game, well, I'll probably be disappointed, because that's just what Brentford are doing at the moment. And Mbeumo obviously very creative as well, creating loads of chances for his teammates. And that's not really been seen in the attacking returns yet. He seems to be all about goals at the moment, which is great, don't get me wrong. But I'd like to see some assists being added to his repertoire as well. And he's getting close on multiple occasions. So can we see this in the Manchester United game? Goals and assists? Maybe. But after that, Ipswich at home. That is a point where I think Mbeumo must be a must-own player by that point, surely. Brennan Johnson is the player I brought in last game week, and he plays West Ham at home. Now, I do think this fixture is more suited to a player like Solanke rather than a Brennan Johnson running in behind. There's just not going to be as much opportunity in a fixture like this. However, still think there is going to be some opportunities for a guy who is in phenomenal form at the moment. 6 goals in 6 games in all competitions. This guy is just not stopping. A couple of assists in there as well. He's just been a non-stop joy for the past month or so. He really has. So very pleased to have him in my FPL team moving forward as well. And I don't think it's too late to go for Brennan Johnson if you haven't got him already as well. Smith Rowe is my final midfielder for my lineup today. He faces Aston Villa at home. I don't think that's too bad of a fixture, considering Villa have been conceding a lot of goals. Obviously, Smith Rowe was benched in game week 7 against Man City, but I feel that was a tactical move, and Smith Rowe has shown that he is a top player and has been one of the best players at Fulham this season. So I expect him to come straight back into the starting lineup in game week 8, ready to hopefully get some returns in a run of fixtures that is now improved after that Man City game. So Smith Rowe is a medium-term hold for me, and I don't see myself selling him anytime soon. Erling Haaland up front, Wolves away, the Wolves team that cannot stop conceding. 3 goals conceded per game on average for Wolves, and when they face a team like Man City, you get the impression it could be more. Could this be a 5-0 game? Very possibly, and if it is, could Erling Haaland hat-tricks be back on the cards? I think there's a strong possibility of that in the next game week or two, so looking forward to seeing what he can produce. Kai Havertz is still in my team after an impressive run of form. He is flagged in FPL at the moment, but for this video, I'm not going to include a flag on Havertz because from my understanding, there is no injury there. He just took the international break to kind of rest after a busy period and some maybe longer term issues that he has. Just needed that break, needed that rest. So that's why he wasn't on international duty with Germany, and actually he should be fine. But of course, we'll wait for further comments from tomorrow before we make any final decisions. Yeah, plugging the name of the video there. Jamie Vardy is my final player in the starting 11. He plays against Southampton. I bought Jamie Vardy in part for this Southampton game and the Ipswich game in game week 10. So he hasn't really rewarded me for going for him. You know, a bit of a different player, not super common among FPL teams. You know, players like Robertson, Johnson have rewarded me for going for someone a little bit different. Vardy, not so much so far, but things can change very fast, particularly in these easier fixtures. And we know Southampton is one of those easier fixtures. Penalty taker as well is always an advantage. So can he come good? I'm sure a lot of you guys are thinking the same thing about Calvert-Lewin, for example. If you have Calvert-Lewin, he has a good fixture this week as well against Ipswich, and you're hoping, can this be the game? Can we do it finally? Well, Calvert-Lewin owners, Vardy owners, come on, we can do it. We can get some points from our cheap striker. It's about time. Anyway, on the bench, Valdemarson is going to stay right there. Rodgers is a player I could potentially play. And one thing about Saka, if it does turn out Saka is injured for this game week, and I didn't know about it before the deadline, and you know, it's surprised when we see that late kickoff on the Saturday, Saka is not in the squad. Well, we do have Rodgers there as a backup, which I don't think is the worst thing in the world against Fulham. It's not the perfect fixture. I think Fulham have been quite good this season, so I do prefer Smith Rowe, but I wouldn't mind if Rodgers did have to auto sub on. It wouldn't be the end of the world. Harwood-Bellis and Johnson, the other Johnson, Ben, not Brennan. These guys are going to stay firmly rooted to my bench. I'm sure some people would try and play the fixture and maybe play a Harwood-Bellis or a Johnson instead of Robertson, but it's not for me. I'm going to back the Liverpool boys in all their good form because, well, I'm hoping Vardy will score against Harwood-Bellis. I'm sure Calvert-Lewin owners will be hoping that he scores against Ben Johnson, so no clean sheets there if everything goes right in those departments. So this is where my team is at right now, and actually my transfer plan is quite elaborate, and I spoke previously about wildcarding in game week 12, and whilst I still do think that is going to be an option for a lot of people, as we get further and further into the season, I'm kind of realizing that the players that I have are actually pretty good. I don't really need to make too many changes. Things are going well, so why should I need to wildcard? Especially if I have a few free transfers where I can just tweak things a little bit to get the team where I want it to be. So I have got an elaborate transfer plan strategy that I'd like to share with you guys that I think you will like and I think works really well. But of course, guys, we have to put the captain's armband on someone. Of course, it's going to be Erling Haaland. I don't think this is the week to overthink these things. When we compare Haaland to Salah, Saka, Palmer, these other captainable players, I suppose, you know, Saka with the potential injury, I do think Haaland is the standout guy this week, and I don't think it's really too close. So I don't think it's a week to overthink things. In future game weeks, maybe we change things around, but certainly for this game week and next game week, it's probably going to be the Haaland show in terms of captain, and I feel a little bit concerned for anyone who is going into the next 2 game weeks without Haaland, because I'm not really sure where you can cover that captaincy. Of course, if you've got any ideas, guys, of players you think might be able to match or beat Haaland, let me know. But right now, I can't think of anyone. But anyway, vice-captain will be on Saka, presuming he is fit. But we could also vice-captain maybe a Johnson or an Mbeumo, given their good form recently. But wouldn't be as convinced by these players compared to a very reliable Saka. Anyway, but I promised you a very elaborate transfer plan, and that is exactly what you're going to get. So guys, we are back on the Fantasy Football Hub My Team tool, and it's times like this where tools like this really are so important to try and plan out and strategize your FPL team looking towards the future. So guys, if you haven't checked out Fantasy Football Hub already, you can get your team rating and actually full access to the whole shebang, all of their tools, the Opta stats, their player comparison tool, their fixture analyzer, everything completely for free at the moment. They're offering a free trial, so make sure you use the link in the description if you want to have a free trial and start planning out your team, just like I'm going to be doing today. So let's go through this. So here is the basics of it. I have an idea of a team I would like in Game Week 12. I think it's a good idea if you are planning to wildcard in a specific game week. Have a look. What would that wildcard team look like? And if it looks good, fantastic. And in particular, if it looks not too far from your current team, do you need to use the wildcard? The answer is probably not. And that's exactly what I found. So going through, I have basically 5 transfers between Game Week 8 and Game Week 12. That makes sense. And there are 5 specific moves that I would like to make that would really, really improve my team and get my team to basically perfect, basically exactly what I would want to do it. So the question is, when do I use these transfers? And there's various ways of when I pull the trigger on each of these individual transfers, but they all work individually and they all work in multiple game weeks. So for example, one of the moves would be bringing in Palmer. We should all be looking to have Palmer at the latest by Game Week 12 when he faces Leicester, because what we see from Palmer is he is a flat track bully. He will get enormous scores against some of the weaker opponents. Now, that's not to say he's incapable of scoring against, some of these tougher oppositions, but the place you really see the advantage will be Leicester, will be Southampton. That's when you get the huge advantage from Palmer. That's when you captain Palmer. But we'll look at 2 points of jumping onto Palmer. The main one, I guess, is Leicester away in 12, essential. But you could also jump on him in Game Week 9, particularly if you're a Saka owner. Saka faces Liverpool, Chelsea face Newcastle at home. And I think there's a big difference between Newcastle home and away there as well. So that's a possible jumping on point. The other possible jumping on point, I suppose, is Game Week 8. Now, I don't expect too much from Palmer away against Liverpool. However, if Saka is injured this week, we get that confirmation, it might just be worth going 1 week early on that transfer. There's no problem with that. But in an ideal world, we'd keep Saka for this game week. But Game Week 8, I don't think I need to make any transfers. I think my team looks strong. Game Week 9, we have 2 Liverpool players against Arsenal and 2 Arsenal players against Liverpool. I don't love that, to be honest. So there's a couple of different moves we can make. And one move involves bringing in Palmer for Saka. So let's have a look at that. Palmer in for Saka. That could work there, possibly, as for the timing. The other potential moves I could make this week would be to bring in a Wolves player after that Man City game. Like Nori for Robertson is a potential move, or Cunha for Havertz is a possible move as well. In fact, if I don't go for Palmer, I can even go for like Vardy straight up to Cunha after Game Week 8, because Game Week 9 against Forest I don't like as much for Vardy. I probably would be looking to bench him next game week, to be honest. So in that case, could we just upgrade there and go for Cunha there instead? It's a possibility. So there's a few different ways of timings. The timing for Palmer, the timing for Cunha and Aït-Nouri all work in Game Week 9. I don't know which one I will get. Price changes may impact this. Going into Game Week 10, probably won't be a transfer making window for me, but Game Week 11, this is kind of the latest point I'd like to get my Wolves players in. So at this point, Wolves play against Southampton at home. So at the very least, I want to have Aït-Nouri in for Robertson. Again, Aït-Nouri could also come in previous game weeks, but at the latest, it'll be in Game Week 11. And I would like Cunha in this game week to come in for one of Havertz and Vardy. It depends on budget and what other moves I've made. But let's assume I haven't got Palmer at this point, then maybe I can go for Cunha there instead. But it does depend. It does depend on other moves that I have made. So yes, that would make my team look, I would say, reasonably good for Game Week 11. We're almost there. So let's make those transfers and move on to the following game week. So Game Week 12, this is where I'd like to complete my journey and really make sure I have my perfect team, the team I would love to have. And I would have 3 more free transfers by this point after the 2 Wolves players, 3 free transfers remaining. And I would like to get into a situation, and there's multiple ways of doing this, where I have Saka and Palmer, both of these guys, which would be absolutely amazing, wouldn't it? It really, really would. But it wouldn't be Rodgers going out. It would actually be Johnson. But yeah, so I would have both Saka and Palmer and Haaland and Trent all in the same team. Amazing. To free up the budget, I would have to downgrade Havertz to someone. Why does Johnson not want to leave my team? It's because I need to. Let's just go like this. Wait, is it messed up? Have I been messing around with the players too much? Maybe I have. Right, get rid of Johnson just so the budget works. Palmer goes in here, and then João Pedro should be back by game week 12. He would go in as well, which would bring my team to this. 1 free transfer remaining. Gvardiol out, Gabriel in. Because Gvardiol has a bad run of fixtures from 12. So, those are the 5 transfers. I don't know what order they will be made in. If I do Saka to Palmer, that actually puts me 1 transfer behind. So, I might have to wait 1 more week before doing the Gabriel transfer. But outside, or even 1 more week before doing the Vardy and João Pedro transfer, possibly. There's various ways of ordering things. But my team would look like this. It would be a nice cheap goalkeeper still who would just stay in my team. We'd have Trent, Gabriel and Aït-Nouri as the defence. We'd have Saka and Palmer in midfield, complemented by Mbeumo, Haaland and Cunha up front. And then Rodgers, Smith Rowe and João Pedro would be a 3-man rotation each and every game week. I would still have a fairly weak bench, which is fine. It's just one of those things. But the starting 11 looks really, really strong, and we have 1 attacking bench option, which is good enough for me. This team would be pretty much exactly perfect for game week 12. I don't think you can do too much better than this. The one change potentially would be maybe Semenyo instead of Smith Rowe, but I don't mind Smith Rowe at all. He has good fixtures from this kind of period as well, and I'm pretty happy with this player in general. I think I've cooked, guys. Genuinely, let me know what you think. But I think this transfer plan, transfer strategy, or really just an idea of selling 5 specific players and bringing in another 5 specific players to get the lineup that I want in game week 12 without having to use a wild card, I think it's perfect. Let's see how the price changes go. Let's see at what point I make each of these transfers. I don't want to lock anything in right now, but I like having an idea of what direction I'm heading in. And I think I've got that very, very clearly down right now. So there you go, guys. Let me know. For a Game Week 12 team, I think this looks awesome. And I think I can also take advantage of like Game Week 11 with those Wolves players. We can obviously get Palmer in at some point, which will be nice. And having that Arsenal coverage as well. But the biggest thing, Haaland, Saka, Palmer, Trent, all in one team without the use of a wild card, that's crazy. Like, that is not an easy thing to do. And knowing that I'm able to do that, music to my ears. Amazing. But guys, make sure you do check out Fantasy Football Hub whilst the free trial deal is still running. Link in the description for that one. First link, top of the description. And it really helps support the channel when you do make a full paid subscription for Hub as well. It really does support the channel. But we're going to leave things there, guys. Leave a like before you go. Do subscribe if you're new around here. And feel free to check out another video as well if you would like to. Plenty on offer at the FPL Mate channel. And I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.